Welcome to the Hamzy Analytics Daily Market Commentary. I'm Pablo Navarro. Today is Tuesday, August 21st, 2012. For the market internals, the New York Stock Exchange advanced decline differential closed at negative 294. Nasdaq advanced decline differential closed at negative 313. There were 25 new 52-week highs for the S&P 500 and one new 52-week low for the S&P 500. For the volatility, there were 466,000 contracts traded on the VIX, with 60 million in total premiums paid. For the dollar-weighted put-call ratio in August at 3.55 reading, which is bullish, with 17% of the total premiums paid. September at 0.41 reading, which is a bearish reading, with 31% of the total premiums paid. And in October, we saw 1.15, which is neutral, with 25% of the total premiums paid. We saw this October number come as high as 4.5, and then it drifted back lower as the market started selling off. Here we have the daily chart for SPX. Very interesting action today. We broke the highs of the year that we talked about as our upper targets. We were not able to close above the highs of the year, but nonetheless we made an outside day reversal. Here you can see we closed below yesterday's close, and we were broke the highs that we had here so far. Very interesting day here so far. Pretty much in the morning we were going higher, breaking the highs of the year, and then after that we just sold off throughout the day, closing almost at the lows of the day. We continue to be on the positive 1, positive 2 sigma channel, which is important, and we will continue to ride higher if we hold these levels. We're looking at 0 sigma. If we get a pullback, 1393. That's 0 sigma on the daily chart for SPX. That's gonna be a pretty important level here to hold. We see now that CI is flat here and red. Very interesting warning sign here. Same for CI diff flat. Sigma channel width is starting to contract. This means that the volatility of the sigma channels is contracting. Lower width of the sigma channels now on the daily chart. We're gonna go to the intraday action to see what happened today. Let's get the 30-minute chart here. Here we have, you could see, we opened higher, broke the highs of the year, and after that we just started going lower. You could see this 30-minute chart. It was pretty clearly how we started drifting lower and ended almost at the lows of the day. But it was interesting that we bounced off weekly support number 1. We're just gonna see that in a minute. I just wanted to point out how the day turned out. Pretty interesting and orderly selling. Nothing fast, nothing volatile here, just drifting down as time went by. Here we have the 60-minute chart for SPX. You could see the weekly support, pivot, and resistance. We talked about these levels yesterday. We talked about the 1425 was going to be resistance number 1. We broke it for some time, couple of minutes, and then we just started drifting lower. That was our top here. You could see the shift here, and after that we just started to go lower. The low was pivot. We broke the pivot to the downside for a couple of minutes again, and then we bounced back higher. That was our weekly pivot. That's at 1411. These levels are gonna be critical from this week. We're looking for a range of 1411 to 1425. We're gonna see what tomorrow brings. We're starting to change the trend to the upward because we did not break pivot line and continue our descent here. So next target on the support, pivot, and resistance would be the 1425 level. Maybe come and test the highs of the year we made today and see what happens there if we're able to close above it. Now let's go to SPY to get these targets better. On the daily chart we have pretty much the same. We just talked about outside day reversal, high of the year, and we continue to be on the positive 1, positive 2 sigma channel. But let's focus here on the levels. We're looking for the 144 level now on SPY. Yesterday we talked about the 143 level. We touched it. Today high was 143.09. We touched our target on the upside. Now we're looking for 144, and on the downside we're looking for 139.56. For For the support, pivot, and resistance, again, these levels are working very nicely here. You could see here we touched the 142.97 level, we called it 143, and bounced back lower. On the pivot was 141.50. That was our low basically, and then we just bounced back higher. Not much, 20 cents here on SPY, but still that was pretty much a tradable low we had in mind. If we are not able to break pivot to the downside, we're looking again for 143s, maybe even go and test this 143.77. That's gonna be again a new high for the year. If we are able to break and have maybe tomorrow another down day, we're looking for the 140.70, and if in case we break that, 139.25 are gonna be our next targets here on the downside. So keep an eye on these important levels for SPY. Let's go pretty fast and talk about GLD. Let's start with the daily chart. Pretty interesting day here in GLD. Futures were up overnight. We went up here. We talked about breaking this 58.5 level. Now we are at 58.83. We're sitting at 3 sigma. This is pretty extended on the daily chart, but again we talked about how contracted the sigma channels were on this GLD chart so far. We're gonna expand here to see we are now wanting to see a breakout above 159.50. That would be a breakout from this range that we've been having here, and go and test the 200-day moving average at 160.25. Again, very good action on gold, 1% higher for the day, and possible breakout. We're gonna have another chart here. You could see the breakout here. We're starting to test these low highs that we have had over the last couple of months. If we're able to take these highs out, we're probably going to go and test this 200-day moving average at 160.25, and that's gonna be our next target on the upside. If we are able to break that highs, we do have 162 as the next target. First we need to break this 200-day moving average. That's not gonna be that easy. Yesterday we talked about closing here on this downward trend line we talked about, and maybe if we come back tomorrow and confirm the breakout, that will be a pretty good indication that gold is trying to break out higher. For the support, pivot, and resistance on GLD, let's go to the 60-minute chart, and here we have it. We opened today at weekly resistance number 2. You could see it 158.97 was weekly resistance number 2. We pretty much stayed the whole day wandering around that resistance, and that was it. In the morning, looks like we tried to test weekly resistance number 1, but then bounced back pretty hard instantly basically. So these are the levels we're looking at. On weekly resistance number 3 is gonna be at 160.48. That of course is above the 200-day moving average we just talked about. On the downside, we don't want it to break below the pivot of 156.35. That's gonna be a pretty big reversal if we do break to the downside here. Now let's go to the Ndx chart, another interesting chart here. We're just gonna look at the levels here for Ndx, and the support, pivot, and resistance pretty much same as SPY here or SPX. We're looking to the downside for 27.56. That's gonna be the support of the pivot, and on the upside we're looking for the highs of the year, or 28.04. Yesterday we talked about this 28.04 level. Today we hit that target. If we are able to break the pivot, we're looking for 27.32, and on the upside we're looking for 28.28. Those are the levels here we're watching. Last chart we're gonna look at is VIX. VIX on the daily chart. Here we have it. We talked about yesterday maybe going higher because we were on this -1, -2 sigma channel. We broke up. We were at 15 right now, 7% higher for the day, but we continue to be below 0 sigma on the daily chart. Below 17, 16 and a half. It's pretty good VIX here overall for the market. Maybe bring some volatility back for the intraday action. And that's it overall here. We have a special offer by TradeStation. Get your Hamsey Analytics proprietary indicators paid by TradeStation. Contact Active Traders Office in Chicago, Peter Albino, at the number listed below. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.